Honorable Professor J.L. Peiris, Honorable Minister for External Affairs of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable External Affairs Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to today's signing ceremony where 3 agreements will be signed. First, we have the agreed minutes of the 8th session of the India-Srilanka Joint Commission meeting. The Sri Lankan signatory is Honorable Professor J.L. Peiris. The Indian signatory is Sri Salman Khurshid. Next is the agreement for the avoidance of double taxation and prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income. The Sri Lankan signatory is Honorable Professor J.L. Peiris. The Indian signatory is Sri Salman Khurshid. Finally, we have the agreement on combating international terrorism and drug trafficking and illegal trafficking in persons. The Sri Lankan signatory is Honorable Professor J.L. Peiris. The Indian signatory is Sri Salman Khurshid. this concludes the signing ceremony.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. I welcome you to this event. As usual, we will begin with opening remarks by the two ministers. I request the Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, Shri Salman Khurshid, to make his opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Professor G.L. Peiris, Minister of External Affairs of Sri Lanka, friends from the media, I have just concluded very useful and productive discussions with the Honorable Minister on the entire gamut of our bilateral relations. Professor Peiris and I have also co-chaired the 8th session of the Joint Commission meeting. We have noted that bilateral cooperation between the past 3 years has seen significant expansion covering all areas of mutual interest. The signing today of 2 agreements relating to combating international terrorism and drug trafficking and illegal trafficking in persons and double taxation avoidance agreement has further strengthened the framework of our close cooperation. During the Joint Commission, we comprehensively reviewed bilateral relations, including trade, investment and services, development cooperation, science and technology, power, agriculture, health, people-to-people contacts, connectivity, tourism, culture and education. We've noted with satisfaction that India is Sri Lanka's largest trade partner and Sri Lanka is India's largest trade partner in South Asia. India is the largest foreign direct investor in Sri Lanka and also contributes to the largest number of tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankans also make up a significant proportion of tourists and pilgrims visiting India every year. Given the vast untapped potential, we have stressed the need for intensive consultations towards a comprehensive framework for economic cooperation and building of a special economic partnership. We are working on setting up of a special economic zone in Trincomalee and pharmaceutical and textiles cluster elsewhere in Sri Lanka. I've conveyed India's readiness to support Sri Lanka's endeavor in capacity building in science and technology, agriculture, ICT, education, and the health sector. We agreed to enhance cooperation in the energy sector. We are already discussing finalization of major mutually beneficial projects in power and oil and gas sectors. We look forward to enhanced cooperation in new and renewable energy, civil nuclear energy, and space technology in the future. India and Sri Lanka enjoy a growing defense relationship built on extensive training and service-to-service linkages. We have today reviewed our mutual strategic interests in view of the commonality of concerns, including with respect to the safety and security of sea lanes of communication. We agreed to promote dialogue on security and defense issues of relevance in bilateral as well as in regional context. We noted that successful exposition of the sacred Kapilavastu relics and the celebration of 150 years of Guru Rabindranath Tagore's anniversary in Sri Lanka, and that have both have significantly enriched our bilateral cultural relations. The Joint Commission meeting agreed on the need to extend humane treatment and abjure violence against fishermen of our 2 countries. We welcome the decision of 2 meetings of the Joint Working Group on Fishing held in 2011 and 2012, and also the outcomes of meetings between representatives of fishermen's associations and the work towards concluding an MOU on development and cooperation in the field of fisheries. The need for both sides to adhere to practical arrangements on fishing of 2008, which had helped decrease the incidents on the international maritime boundary line, has been duly noted. Both sides have placed great emphasis on the safety of fishermen and the need to continue to ensure that violence is not resorted under any circumstances. I have conveyed India's commitment to the reconstruction and rehabilitation efforts of internally displaced persons in Sri Lanka. We have made good progress in implementing comprehensive bilateral agenda set out by our Prime Minister and the President of Sri Lanka in June 2010. Projects of bilateral development assistance have progressed well, including construction of 50,000 houses for IDPs with the fullest cooperation of the government of Sri Lanka. Our livelihood generation and reconstruction efforts in northern and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka have had a positive impact on the ground. In my separate discussions with the Foreign Minister, I have referred to the need for continued dialogue between Government of Sri Lanka and the representatives of Sri Lankan Tamil community with a view towards ensuring a future for the Tamil community that is marked by equality, dignity, justice and self-respect, all features highly respected by Sri Lanka. We hope that there will be early progress on a meaningful devolution, building upon the 13th Amendment and leading to national reconciliation. I'm confident that given our geographical proximity and millennial links, a much closer and more comprehensive relationship beckons us. The visit of Minister Peiris and our discussions today have open avenues for taking full and further advantage of opportunities that are open to us. Thank you very much.
I request the External Affairs Minister of Sri Lanka to make his opening remarks.
I think that's on.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Salvan Khurshid, Minister of External Affairs of India, and friends from the media. As my distinguished colleague told you, we had some very productive and constructive discussions. We concluded the 8th Joint Commission between India and Sri Lanka. It is taking place at a particularly propitious moment, marking the end of one era in Sri Lanka and the commencement of a very exciting but challenging period in our country's history. We leave behind us the pain and the conflict of a 30-year conflict. And President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his government are today engaged in the endeavor to revive the country's economy and to move the island forward in a variety of sectors. What strikes me about the deliberations that we have just concluded is the depth and the range of the relationship between our two countries. The agreed minutes demonstrate beyond any shadow of doubt that the relationship touches every sector of public policy. The main areas were identified by His Excellency Salvan Khurshid. I would be content to say that this is an appropriate moment to stand back, to take stock of the situation, and to explore practical ways and means of elevating the already robust relationship to a new and a higher plane. And I would say that that is exactly what we have been able to accomplish in these discussions. We have identified for ourselves where more intense collaboration would yield results which are beneficial to both countries at this moment. And there are many things that strike me as significant. One of these is the fact that this is no longer a one-way relationship. Take, for example, the very significant contribution that the private sector of Sri Lanka is making to the development of the economy of India. We are partners and participants in that process. And I would say that the quality of this relationship makes one thing very clear. Whatever problems, issues may arise from time to time, and that is inevitable in any bilateral relationship, the tremendous reservoir of goodwill and understanding that exists between our two countries makes it possible for us through dialogue and discussion to arrive at acceptable and pragmatic solutions to the challenges that we face. This is no doubt facilitated by certain other elements of the relationship, One of which is that it is no longer confined to government relations. One of the strongest components of this relationship, I would say, is the vigorous people-to-people relations. This was nowhere demonstrated more clearly than by the enthusiasm with which, as His Excellency the Minister of External Affairs of India indicated, the people of Sri Lanka, no fewer than 3 million people in our country, had the opportunity of venerating the sacred Kapilavastu relics. In fact, Excellency, as you would recall, we had to make a special request to the Prime Minister of India through your High Commissioner, His Excellency Ashok Kanta, to have the period extended by 1 week, which the government of India graciously acceded to. Apart from that, I think about 200,000 pilgrims from Sri Lanka visit Buddha Gaya, Sanchi, Saranath. So people-to-people contact is definitely a strong, durable mainstay of our relationship. That is one of the bonds that unite us. So there's every reason for optimism and confidence with regard to the future of this relationship. What we have concluded today is a significant milestone in that relationship. It is a constantly continuing and evolving relationship. And I do not have a shadow of doubt that it will go from strength to strength in the months and the years to come. I thank you, Excellency.
Thank you.
The two External Affairs Ministers have agreed to take a few questions. The first question is from Parul Chandra, Asian Age.
My question is to both the ministers. First, Mr. Peiris, what is the Sri Lankan government's current stand on the 13th Amendment and devolution of powers, given that certain ministers of the Sri Lankan government have made remarks suggesting that the 13th Amendment should be repealed? And my question to Mr. Khurshid, is India satisfied with the pace and progress of devolution of powers in Sri Lanka?
Well, the 13th Amendment is an integral part of the country's constitution. In recent times, we have had the expression of different views with regard to the future of the 13th Amendment by people in the government. We have had a variety of opinions, not just one opinion. One view has been that it should be done away with. At the other end of the spectrum, there are other members of the government who have suggested that far from repealing the 13th Amendment, we should strengthen it. That point of view has also been expressed. And there's a middle view, that the 13th Amendment is defective in the sense that it has shortcomings, which is not surprising, and that those deficiencies need to be addressed and the content of the 13th Amendment improved. So that has been a third school of thought. Now, this is to be expected because you are aware that the government of Sri Lanka is a coalition government. It consists of different strands of thought, different perceptions, insights, all of which is very healthy in a vibrant democracy. So there is encouragement for the expression of different points of view. And that is what you have been reading about in the media in recent weeks. So it is for the government of Sri Lanka to take into account all these expressions of opinion and to arrive at decisions with regard to a future course of action. But what you have been reading about are not decisions, but simply expressions of opinion by various political parties, various segments of the government. And I would regard that as something promising and encouraging, the free expression of different points of view with regard to a matter that is of fundamental importance to public policy in Sri Lanka.
So I think, thank you for your question. Frankly, my reply will just flow from His Excellency Foreign Minister's explanation about the context in which we must see this. It's been, Sri Lanka has been through an extremely painful experience, and to reconstruct and rehabilitate all your citizens after such a painful experience is obviously a very challenging task. We've discussed contours of the efforts that are being made. Many of those efforts have borne fruit, are productive. Many more, of course, are in the pipeline, in the process, and a lot more needs to be done. And I think it's, at best, we can, as friends, provide our understanding and our perception of how things are going, and be willing to help in every which way. I do believe that ultimately it's the elected government that decides what it can manage, at what speed and in what direction. I think the broad contours are what we discussed, and there is no reason for us to express any dissatisfaction. Obviously, it's an enormous challenge. It is a difficult challenge. It has to be met consistently, step by step, and steadily. And I would imagine that we would want to see the reconciliation and reconstruction continue unabated, and that's the impression, and that's those are the details that have been conveyed to us. And we wish Sri Lanka well. Our best wishes are with them for completion of what is essentially a very, very difficult task.
Next question is Ashwini Fadnis, Business Line.
This is to the visiting Sri Lankan Foreign Minister. Sir, could you explain the rationale behind increasing duty on Indian automobile exports, especially as sections of Indian industry feel that this is a political decision which has been taken to increase imports from our immediate northern neighbor?
No, I can tell you categorically that that is not the case. It is not a political decision, nor is it discriminatory in any sense whatsoever. It is based on a purely objective criterion, engine capacity. Engine capacity is not a political criterion. It is something objective and ascertainable. So there has been some misunderstanding on this matter, but that assumption on which the question is based, I can assure you, is not correct. India is a very strong trading partner of Sri Lanka. Look at the volumes of trade today, which, as I said, have grown sevenfold since the FTA was entered into, whether it is investment or trade or tourism. It is a very strong relationship which we are seeking to nurture and develop. So it is certainly not the intention of the government of Sri Lanka to do something to inhibit. On the contrary, the intention is very much to expand and to strengthen. So that is not correct. It is a criterion based on engine capacity applicable across the board, no matter what the source or the origin of the vehicle. It is in no sense a discriminatory decision intended to have a political impact.
The next question is from Mr. Narayanan, Win TV.
Your Excellency, my question to G.L. Peiris, why Indian fishermen are being targeted quite often by the Sri Lankan forces? What steps you are taking?
Well, on this matter, very clear instructions have been given by the government of Sri Lanka to the Sri Lankan Navy. No violence, and those instructions are being scrupulously observed. It's a human problem which requires a response founded upon humanitarian values.